In September 2024, the Bank of Canada announced it was scaling down its digital dollar program. The governor said there was not a compelling case to move forward. 9 months later, the bank published a detailed technical blueprint for exactly how to build one. 85% of 90,000 Canadians who responded to the public consultation said they would not use a digital currency. 87% said they did not trust the Bank of Canada to keep it secure. The research continued anyway. Canada has not launched a digital dollar, but every piece of infrastructure required to launch one is either built, published, or in progress. And a prime minister who has called central bank digital currencies the future of money now leads a majority government. In this video, I am going to show you 3 things. First, what a central bank digital currency actually is and how it differs from the digital banking you already use. Second, what other countries have already done with their digital currencies, and it is not theoretical. And third, the specific trajectory of cash in Canada and why every Canadian should be paying attention to it right now. Most people hear digital dollar and assume it is the same as what they already have. You pay with a debit card, you send e-transfers, your money is already digital. So what is the difference? The difference is fundamental, and it is the most important thing I will explain in this video. Right now, when you have money in your bank account, that money is a liability of your commercial bank, TD, RBC, Scotiabank, whoever you bank with. The bank owes you that money. The government does not hold it. The Bank of Canada does not hold it. Your relationship is with the commercial bank, and the commercial bank's relationship is with the central bank. There are 2 layers between you and the state, 2 institutions, 2 sets of systems. A central bank digital currency removes one of those layers. With a CBDC, your money would be a direct liability of the Bank of Canada, not your commercial bank, the central bank. The distinction matters because it changes who can see your transactions, who can restrict your transactions, and who can freeze your money. Under the current system, if the government wants to freeze your bank account, it has to instruct your commercial bank to do it. The bank has to identify your account, process the instruction, and execute the freeze. That takes time. It requires cooperation from a private institution. It creates legal exposure for the bank. Under a CBDC, the central bank holds the money directly. The intermediary is gone. The instruction and the execution happen in the same system. The processing delay disappears. The need for commercial bank cooperation disappears. The freeze happens at the source. The Bank of Canada has been very clear that its proposed design emphasizes privacy. Its June 2025 feasibility study describes an architecture that separates identity from transaction data. And I want to be fair about that. The bank has not proposed a surveillance currency, but the distinction between capability and intent is the entire point. Technical privacy protections are only as permanent as the legislation that mandates them. A future government can change the legislation. The technology allows whatever the law permits. Here is what becomes technically possible with a digital currency that is not possible with physical cash. I am not saying Canada has proposed any of these. I am saying other countries have already implemented them. Expiration dates on money. In China's Shenzhen digital yuan trial, the government issued digital currency vouchers with expiration dates. 90% of the vouchers were spent before the deadline. The money had a clock on it. If you did not spend it in time, it disappeared. That is not possible with a $20 bill in your wallet. A $20 bill does not expire. Spending restrictions. At the World Economic Forum in 2023, a Cornell University professor described how a CBDC could be programmed to block purchases of specific categories: ammunition, gambling, pornography, specific merchant types. He called it very powerful and extremely dangerous in the same sentence. The technology makes it possible. The policy decision determines whether it happens. Geographic restrictions, money that only works within a certain region. China has tested this. Your digital currency works in Shenzhen, but not in Shanghai. This is not possible with cash. Cash works everywhere. Negative interest rates. This is the one that economists talk about the most. Right now, if The Bank of Canada wants to push interest rates below zero to stimulate spending during a recession. Physical cash creates a problem. People can simply withdraw their money and hold it as cash, avoiding the negative rate. A CBDC eliminates that escape route. If all money is digital, there is nowhere to go. The Bank of Canada explored this explicitly in a 2020 monetary policy paper examining how a CBDC could overcome what economists call the zero lower bound problem. In plain language, a digital dollar means the central bank could charge you for holding money and you would have no way to avoid it. And then there is real-time transaction visibility. Cash is anonymous. When you hand someone a $20 bill, no system records it, no database logs it, no algorithm analyzes it. A CBDC, depending on its design, can record every transaction in real time. The Bank of Canada says its design would separate identity from transaction data. But that separation is a policy choice implemented in software. It can be changed. And the history of government surveillance programs around the world suggests that once the capability exists, the temptation to use it follows. This is not theoretical. Other countries have already launched central bank digital currencies, and the results are instructive. China's digital yuan, the ECNY, has processed 2.3 trillion US dollars in cumulative transactions. It is the largest CBDC deployment in the world. China describes its privacy model as controllable anonymity. What that means in practice is that transactions are anonymous to the merchant you are buying from, but fully traceable to the People's Bank of China. The central bank sees everything. A lawfare assessment concluded that the digital yuan gives the Chinese government unparalleled insight into the Chinese people's finances. China has also tested expiration dates, geographic restrictions, and spending conditions. These are not hypothetical features. They have been deployed in real trials with real citizens. Nigeria launched the e-Naira in October 2021 and provides the clearest warning about what happens when a government tries to force adoption. In December 2022, the Nigerian government restricted cash withdrawals explicitly to push citizens toward the digital currency. Banks were instructed to limit ATM withdrawals to the equivalent of about 45 US dollars per day. The result was chaos. Public riots broke out in multiple cities. ATMs ran dry. Markets that had functioned on cash for generations stopped functioning entirely. Street vendors could not make change. Taxi drivers could not accept payment. The informal economy, which employs the majority of Nigeria's workforce, ground to a halt. According to IMF data, 98.5% of issued e-Naira wallets were never used. Cash remained 99.63% of currency in circulation by early 2024. The government was forced to reverse course. The population rejected the digital currency and fought to keep cash. Nigeria proved that a CBDC cannot be adopted by mandate alone. Citizens will resist when they perceive their financial autonomy is being taken away. The European Union is actively preparing a digital euro, with the European Central Bank targeting a 2029 launch if legislation passes through the EU Parliament in 2026. More than 388,000 Europeans have signed a petition against it. The concerns are the same ones Canadians raised: surveillance, government overreach, and the loss of cash anonymity. The Bahamas launched the world's first live CBDC, the sand dollar, in 2020. 6 years later, less than 0.1% of currency in circulation is digital. Only 7.9% of the population has ever used it. The Bahamas has fewer than 400,000 people, a single central bank, and a government that actively promoted the sand dollar. Even under those conditions, adoption was negligible. The pattern across every country that has launched or attempted a CBDC is the same. The public is skeptical. Adoption is minimal unless forced. And the governments that forced adoption faced backlash that required reversal. In 2023, the Bank of Canada conducted a public consultation on the digital dollar. Approximately 90,000 Canadians responded. The results were overwhelming. 85% said they would not use a central bank digital currency. 87% said they did not trust the Bank of Canada to keep it secure. 86% said they did not trust the federal government. 79% said they did not trust the Bank of Canada to access and protect their payment data. The most valued feature of cash, according to respondents, was privacy and anonymity. The Bank of Canada's response to these results was that the consultation was not representative because people with strong feelings were more likely to respond. That is technically true of any public consultation. But 90,000 people is not a small sample. And when 85% of respondents reject your proposal, dismissing the results as self-selection bias is a choice, what happened after the consultation is more revealing than the consultation itself. In September 2024, Governor Tiff Macklem announced that the bank was scaling down its CBDC research, recognizing that there was not currently a compelling case to move forward. That sounds like the program ended. It did not. In January 2025, the bank published research on privacy-enhancing technologies for digital currencies. In June 2025, the bank published a full feasibility study titled A Retail CBDC Design for Basic Payments, identifying MIT's open CBDC architecture as a viable implementation path. The bank explicitly stated it would be ready when conditions change. Scaled down does not mean canceled. It means the research is slower, not gone. The blueprint exists. The architecture has been evaluated. The privacy technologies have been studied. The bank has explicitly said it will be ready when conditions change. That phrase, when conditions change, is doing a lot of work. It does not say if conditions change, it says when. The Bank of Canada is not closing the door on a digital dollar. It is leaving it open and standing next to it. If a future government decides to move forward, the groundwork has already been laid. The feasibility study is done, the privacy research is done, the architecture is selected. The only thing missing is the political decision to proceed. Whether or not Canada launches a digital dollar next year or in 10 years, the trajectory of cash in this country is clear and it is accelerating. In 2009, cash was used in 54% of all transactions in Canada. By 2023, that number had dropped to 20%. That is a 34 percentage point decline in 14 years. 561 bank branches closed between 2019 and 2023. 900 bank-owned ATMs were removed in the same period. The physical infrastructure that supports cash is being systematically reduced. There are fewer places to get cash and fewer places to use it. In June 2025, the federal government introduced Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act. One provision in that bill criminalizes cash payments of $10,000 or more by businesses. The penalty upon conviction is 3 times the transaction amount. For individuals, the maximum fine is $4 million. For entities, $20 million. This is framed as anti-money laundering legislation, and the stated purpose is to close a gap in cash transaction regulation. But the practical effect is that large cash transactions, which were previously legal and simply reported to FinTrack, are now potentially criminal. There are still $121.3 billion in physical banknotes circulating in Canada. Cash has not been eliminated, but the direction is unmistakable. Fewer branches to withdraw from, fewer ATMs to access, tighter restrictions on large transactions, and a detailed technical blueprint for a digital alternative sitting on the Bank of Canada's website. Cash is not being banned, it is being made irrelevant. One closure, one restriction, and one regulation at a time. And each step is individually defensible. Closing a branch saves the bank money. Removing an ATM reduces maintenance costs. Criminalizing large cash payments fights money laundering. Each decision makes sense in isolation. But the cumulative effect is a country where using cash becomes progressively harder, more expensive, and more suspicious. And when the alternative to cash is a central bank digital currency, the people who lost access to cash did not choose to adopt the digital dollar. They were left with no other option. In February 2022, the Emergencies Act was invoked and 200 bank accounts were frozen, holding approximately $8 million. The process required emergency legislation, verbal instructions from the RCMP to commercial banks, the banks identifying and processing the freezes, and legal exposure for every institution involved. It took 9 days. The Federal Court of Appeal later ruled the invocation unlawful. Now imagine that same scenario with a central bank digital currency in place. The commercial bank intermediary is gone. The central bank holds the accounts directly. The freeze does not require bank cooperation. It does not require processing time. It does not require banks to accept legal exposure by complying with a potentially unlawful order. The instruction and the execution happen in the same system. The speed increases. The friction decreases. The oversight disappears. I am not saying this will happen. I am saying the capability would exist, and capabilities, once built, tend to be used. Not always immediately, not always by the government that built them, but the history of surveillance infrastructure around the world is consistent. Systems built for one purpose get repurposed for others. Powers granted during emergencies become permanent. Temporary measures become standard practice. The difference between a system where account freezing requires multiple institutions to cooperate across 9 days and a system where it can happen instantly at the central bank level is not a small difference. It is a structural change in the relationship between citizens and the state. And structural changes are much harder to reverse than policy changes. And the political environment matters. Pierre Poilievre backed Bill C-400, which would have banned the Bank of Canada from issuing a CBDC entirely. He lost the election. Mark Carney, who as Bank of England governor advocated for CBDCs as a potential replacement for the US dollar's reserve currency status, and described CBDC delays as playing into the hands of big tech, now leads a majority government. The Bank of Canada is operationally independent. Carney does not directly control its decisions, but the Prime Minister sets the political environment in which those decisions are made. Here is the pattern. Cash usage is declining. The physical infrastructure that supports it is shrinking. Large cash transactions are being criminalized. A detailed CBDC blueprint has been published. The public overwhelmingly rejected the idea, and the research continued. And the political leadership has shifted toward figures who view digital currencies favorably. No single one of these facts is alarming on its own. Together, they describe a trajectory, and the time to pay attention to a trajectory is before it reaches its destination, not after. The practical advice is the same as what I have said in previous videos on this channel. Keep cash, not because the digital system is going to collapse tomorrow, but because every alternative you maintain outside the digital system is one more option you have if the rules of that system change. Hold physical currency, maintain accounts at multiple institutions, diversify not just your investments, but your access to your own money. A digital dollar may never launch in Canada. The Bank of Canada may keep it on the shelf indefinitely, but the shelf is built. The blueprint is on it. And even if the digital dollar never launches, the trajectory of cash is moving in one direction regardless. The $20 bill in your wallet does not track you. It does not expire. It does not require an internet connection or a functioning banking relationship. It works in a power outage. It works if your bank closes your account. It works if the government decides it does not like what you donated to. Every one of those properties disappears in a fully digital system. And the people who understand that are the ones best positioned to protect themselves, whether a CBDC launches next year, in 10 years, or never. The Bank of Canada said it was scaling down. Then it published a feasibility study. 85% of Canadians said no. The research continued. Cash usage dropped from 54% to 20%. 561 branches closed. 900 ATMs removed. Bill C to criminalize large cash transactions. And the Prime Minister, who calls CBDCs the future of money, holds a majority. No one is banning cash tomorrow, but the distance between today and a Canada where cash is functionally irrelevant is shorter than most people think. And the time to prepare for that is now. If this video changed how you think about cash and digital currency in Canada, subscribe. This channel covers the financial rules, the tax laws, and the banking regulations that affect ordinary Canadians. I'm Andrew Graves. I will see you in the next one.